A huge thank you to everyone who's continued to support my work on Talk Beliefs. I now have a Patreon campaign where all contributions go towards the cost of travel, audio and video equipment, and fees to religious events that I fully intend to continue to infiltrate. Thank you. It's very quiet today on my street. A few people out shopping. Not the usual street preachers that you get. Well, that's a good thing. But I do spot a lone, I'm assuming it's a Hare Krishna. I don't know why. Perhaps because he's got a grin on his face and is handing out some little books. Well, that could be anyone, couldn't it? It could be from any religion. But I don't know. I get a feel for these things. And I still haven't quite gotten down to the nitty-gritty of exactly why they are in that religion, why they actually feel that this is doing them some good, what it's all about. I hear different things from different people. Is it really just an escape from the world? Are they really happy? Is it a cult? I guess there's one way to find out. Hey, how are you?
How you doing?
Oh, good. Oh,
good.
are you from the
Temple?
I have been there. Yeah, I went for the 50th
Oh yeah.
anniversary.
So you're clued up on this thing. And
Oh,
so
excellent.
you're a kind of like a Hare Krishna believer, or do you chant? Do you have beats and? Or you
Oh,
read
me,
books?
I wouldn't say I'm a believer. I'm sort of fascinated by it.
Yeah. So this is. Have you read the books about it? I'm showing these books around you. So
I've
maybe
actually
you
got some of them.
Yeah.
But
Bhagavad Gita you probably have, right?
yeah, I mean, could
It's
you?
the pocket edition.
That's the pocket
It's
edition.
a nice
that-
edition. So
Yeah,
like a couple of pounds we usually give it out for.
but I mean, is that like the Hindu holy book, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of called Hinduism, but we're not really Hindus, because that's an ethnic term. We see ourselves as spiritual scientists, which is universal for everyone. Like I'm obviously not a Hindu, right? You think about it, right? I mean, it gets called Hinduism, but
Yeah.
I'm not really a Hindu.
But it's just one of the gods, isn't it? Which is Krishna.
Krishna, yeah. Well, we say Krishna is a phrase in Sanskrit. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the supreme god, and all other gods are coming from him. So we're monotheistic. Yeah.
I thought it was wasn't it Brahma who created all of
Okay,
them?
Brahma created, but Krishna created Brahma. See, Brahma comes out of. There's probably a picture. You see pictures. I don't know when. But Brahma. See, what happens is Brahma meditated. He was born out of a lotus that came from Vishnu. You know the Vishnu?
Yeah.
From Vishnu's navel. And Vishnu's an expansion of Krishna. So Brahma ultimately comes from Krishna. And when he was born, he didn't know where he was. When you're born, you don't know. So he did meditation. And then Krishna appeared in meditation. And he gave him enlightenment. And Brahma offered these wonderful prayers. And these prayers we sing them in the morning. Have you ever seen have you been there at 7 o'clock before?
Not that early, no.
Because you can actually get it on YouTube as well if you Google George Harrison and Govinda.
Yeah.
Govinda. Say Govinda prayers.
I know the Kula Shaker song. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Govinda is the song is Brahma Samhita. It's pure spirituality because it's Krishna's flute entered into the heart of Lord Brahman, and he offered these prayers in spiritual trance. It's very, very purifying. And at 7 o'clock in the morning, we play these prayers. It goes Govindam Adipurusham Tamahang Bhajami. Means I worship Govinda, the original person.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So you're English,
Yeah, I mean I'm Scottish, but yeah.
Scottish, but you weren't born in India or
No,
anywhere
no.
like that. So
No.
I mean, if you had been born in India, this would have been normal to you.
Yes.
So obviously you probably started off as a Christian or a Catholic, or
I wasn't. My parents were kind of Christians who kind of gave up. Really, they weren't interested anymore.
Yeah.
Agnostic and atheistic almost. So I was brought up as a scientist, but I became a seeker
Yeah.
of spirituality. When I became about 17, 18, I just started trying to look for something, and I got interested in Buddhism and different stuff, yoga and stuff, and then ended up with this.
How did you end up with Hare Krishna?
Well, just like you're meeting me on the street, I met someone on the streets.
Yeah.
And I met them a lot of times. I used to pick up books from them all the time, and I found that through reading these books, my faith had developed in that. And then when I actually went to meetings and I started associating with them, I decided this is what I wanted to do for my life.
You obviously met some other people as well.
Yes.
There's always like Jehovah's Witnesses
That's
and
the
all
thing.
sorts of things.
The thing about
But this
it
is the
is-
one that
yeah.
made sense to you.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to get the Watchtower, and I read the Bible and all the New Testament at least, and I had the Quran, I had the Buddhist stuff. This is the one that made the most sense.
Yeah.
It's described, one of our prophets describes that all the churches of the world will ultimately be replaced by a universal church of kirtan. The word kirtan means glorification of God.
Yeah.
So it's basically taking the essence of all religion. The thing about religion is it's got this irritating exclusiveness and sectarianism about it. And it's not. We don't believe that that's the essence of religion. Ultimately, there's only one God, and glorification of God is the natural thing that we should do because we're part of Him. And when we do that, we get enlightenment and we become happy.
But this makes sense to you. You said when you read it all, it made sense to you. A while ago, you were talking about how Brahma came out of the navel of
Krishna. Yeah.
See, that to me sounds like a
myth,
sounds like a story. You know, something that ancient people made up.
Yeah.
But that makes sense to you as much as the
it does make sense.
teaching.
Yeah.
How is that?
We have a scientific division. Well, I think I'd always say it's fact is stranger than fiction. Well, how would I describe it?
Well, a fact is something that you can observe and study.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, that's a good question. You're raising an interesting point. We have levels of evidence. It's what you can gather with your senses. It's what you can deduce with logic and reasoning. Then there's what comes down through authority, spiritual authority. Like, for example, a lot of this you can't verify just by observation. I mean, some of it you can. Obviously, it says everyone who's born dies. Well, we know no one lives forever. That's in the book. But a lot of it you cannot prove it. But the way to prove it is called self-evident truth, in that you meditate on it and then you get the realization from within the heart.
I've heard that kind of thing before from different faiths.
Yeah.
But the Mormons especially, they say, take the Book of Mormon, read it, and then you'll know from what they call the burning in the bosom, they call it, which is
that what they call it?
A feeling in their chest, I guess.
Yeah. So
can you go by a feeling, though?
If the feeling is more real than anything you've ever experienced before, then that would be your standard. Yeah, it's like.
But if you were studying Mormonism, you probably would go with that.
Well, if you got that feeling, you would. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean,
I just want to know. A serious question: how would you know that what you're studying is real?
Yeah. The reason you would know it was real. It's all about faith, right?
Yeah.
Now you're making the point that you can have faith in many different paths, right?
Yeah.
So. And the Mormon is his faith that he's real, and the Hare Krishna has got faith that he's real, right?
Yeah.
So how do we know the Hare Krishnas and not the Mormons? Well...
Or any of the other denominations of faith, there's thousands of them.
My answer, I mean, from someone who's not walked down any path, then you would just use probability and decide that the chances are any particular given faith is not right, because there's so many of them, and that they can't either they're partial truths or they're not the truth at all.
Yeah.
You wouldn't take one as being primary because as a neutral you would just look at them all and so the thing is you would experiment. See, we have a Hare Krishna mantra, which is, I have these prayer beads. I go to the temple every morning, which is quite near here, and I chant these beads: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Yeah.
And when you chant this Hare Krishna mantra and you get the experience from that, then, and you read the books and you imbibe the philosophy, then it makes so much sense that when I speak to Judeo-Christian, I speak to Muslims, Christians, all these types, I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And it would take a while to explain, but I just know that they've got partial truth, but they don't have the whole truth, and there's just things lacking in them. For example, I'll tell you one example. Animals, the Christians say animals don't have a soul. Now for us, consciousness means the soul.
Yeah.
Animals have consciousness, therefore that is an indication of the presence of a living being, a living soul. So we're vegetarian, you see. So when people kill animals and eat them in the name of religion, we're like, well, it's not very high religion. So we accept it as truth, because it's called, as God, He has many paths for different people according to their level. So some people, they're just a little bit, they're not ready for something higher. And some people they like eating meat, and so he said, okay, you want to eat meat, you can do it in a restricted way. First of all, you have the halal, kosher. There's different ways, even in the Vedic. This comes from the Vedas. Yeah. This is the pure strand of the Vedas. But even within the Vedas, there's animal sacrifice going on, and it's sanctioned, but it's not really recommended, and God doesn't ultimately want that. So when you get a higher taste, it gives you vision. So I'll go back to your question, how would I know? Like, if you saw a tramp, if you saw a bum in the street, right? Say he's addicted to alcohol, right? Now that guy could come up to you and say, how do you know that your position's better than mine? Maybe I'm right and you're wrong. But you know you can tell by just looking at him there's something not right. He's on the street living rough. And there's something. So all I'm trying to say is, you get a certain refinement of thinking. When you meet someone who doesn't have that refinement of thinking, you spot it and you think, well, I know you think that your religion's better than mine, but
Well, a guy in the street is like doing the same thing every day, perhaps going to certain street corners every day, doing the same thing over and over again. But isn't that kind of what you said you're doing? Because you're chanting the same thing over and over again.
Well, I'm doing a chant over and over again, yeah, because it's ever fresh. See, the reason we chant it over and over again is because it's spiritual, and spiritual is never gets boring. See, I could chant Coca-Cola, but it wouldn't be the same as chanting Hare Krishna. Because when you actually chant Hare Krishna, you actually feel ecstasy.
Well, if you believe it's a name of God, then I think you probably would feel a bit different.
Yeah.
But I mean, isn't it just a hypnotic effect that you're bringing upon yourself?
It's the real consciousness. See, it's like when someone's hypnotized, but if they come out of hypnosis, they're not going to say that was reality and this is illusion. They're going to see the other way around. They say, when I was hypnotized, that was illusion, this is reality. So when you get an experience on this, you're like, that was reality, and everything else I normally experience is illusion. It kind of flips. Yeah. So it's the nature of the experience will tell you that it's more real than anything you've ever experienced before, and therefore you know it's real. It's like that.
So, but you are talking about the feelings you're getting.
Yes.
So this isn't really much different than other religions who also have books and images of gods, but have never seen these gods. Yeah. But they do get feelings which they attribute to the gods.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
As far as seeing goes, we can actually see the gods. When you go into spiritual trance, you can actually get to see the gods. Yeah. It's a high standard, but you can.
And do they look like they do in the illustrations?
Yeah,
there?
these pictures are like very similar. Like you get experience of Krishna. Yeah. He has this. It's very, very beautiful. I mean, it's very difficult to see Krishna, to see any god. But you get visions, and it's just realizations. Realizations are very powerful things, and so the thing about what I suggest what you should do is, see, you don't want to. You should hedge your bets. You should try. If you could draw a list of which paths you find. Just to have no path. Some people have no path and they think I'm a free person, but ultimately we're not free because we have these desires and we're stuck inside material bodies, so we're not free. We don't experience bliss, so we have problems in life and we all have to die. So we're not in a good position to realise that. That's the starting point. Then you should look for paths. Now you can look at many, but Krishna's one option you should look at. If you looked at Christianity, some denomination of Christianity, and looked at Hare Krishna at the same time, then that would be good. And you'll be honest to yourself. You're neutral. You don't know what's right and what's wrong.
Well, like I say, I've got the books. I've been to the manor, and I think I've spoken to some Hare Krishnas before. But it just doesn't. It seems like just like a different flavour of religion, really. Yeah, and it works for you in the same way as Mormonism works for Mormons. So, but you could be right. I just want to know why you're convinced you're right, or is it that you've just got yourself into the lifestyle?
I have faith, you see.
So it comes down to faith.
It comes down to faith. Faith. Well, actually, it's very scientific. It describes where faith comes from. There's a verse in our scriptures that says, there's two parts to it. From spiritual piety, I'll explain what that is in a minute, comes association with devotees.
Okay.
And from association with devotees comes faith.
Okay.
So I'll explain that. Spiritual piety means you do something that is connected to Krishna. You don't know you're doing it because you have no faith. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. We have special days which are holy. Yeah. And if you fast on these days, you make spiritual advancement. So someone may be totally oblivious. Maybe they're ill. They've got a stomach ache. They don't eat for a day. Yeah. And it turns out that they fasted on a holy day, so they're going to get a little benefit. Or another example is someone gives in charity. Now, giving charity normally is a good thing, but it's not spiritual. But if you give to a spiritual charity, like we have a Food for All centre, we do spiritual food distribution. If you give to that, even if you have no comprehension of spirituality, you've actually given to something spiritual, and that counts. You get a little kind of like a little star for that, a little thumbs up from Krishna. You've done something spiritual without knowing. Yeah. As these acts accumulate over many lives, Krishna will then send you into contact with devotees. See, from our perspective, that's where you're at now. You've had contact with Hare Krishna devotees, and you've had contact with me today. That's coming about. We say that's not by chance. That is something that you're due to some merit, some piety that you've done in this life or previous lives. Through that association with a devotee, your faith develops.
It has nothing to do with the fact that you're standing out in the street here, and that the temple is in this town.
That's okay. No, I mean that's there.
Yeah.
Obviously. But the thing is, here's my question: why did you stop and everyone else walked by? I mean, why did you stop, or why was it you walked past at the same time I was here? Is that coincidence? I mean, you could put it down to just coincidence.
It could be. I mean, I'm interested in why people believe.
Yeah,
things,
but we don't believe that things that happen by chance.
Yeah.
A meeting with a devotee is not a chance occurrence according to our philosophy. So that's the paradigm that I'm presenting to you now.
Yeah.
That you want to know how we think. That this meeting is not a chance meeting. It's an encounter that Krishna has arranged in order that you can meet and talk about Krishna. And
Okay.
from my point of view, see, I'm happy. From my point of view, I think, well, by this conversation, there's been some talk about spiritual stuff, talk about Krishna.
Yeah.
So from a spiritual point of view, I'm happy that we've had this conversation. You see, I'm
All
thinking,
right.
well, I did something.
Yeah.
I'm doing this as a service. I'm not very good at this actually. I don't make profit out of this. I just kind of I buy the books and I basically sell them for the same price almost.
Yeah.
So I just do it on my days off, just for my own spiritual. I'm trying to do it as a service to Krishna. I get reciprocation from Krishna. See, when I do this, when I go home in the afternoon and I go down and I read the book, I feel like 100 times better than if I hadn't done it. You see, it's just like a drug for me. But doing this.
Is part of what you're doing, what you just said, is that you're giving out these books and you're talking to people like me. Yeah. Does that adds to your...
It's called devotional service is what I'm
karma,
doing.
Or whatever the word is?
It helps me advance spiritually as well. You see,
would you say you're doing it because you want to get something out of it?
Well...
It sounds... I want to say selfish, but you know what I mean.
I'll answer that question. This is discussed a lot in our books. See, our devotional service should be unalloyed. It's called unalloyed, which means it should be pure in the sense that it's purely for Krishna's pleasure.
Yeah.
Now, to be on that platform is high. So what I do is, I force myself to get out here. I mean, it's the easiest option for me is not to do that, because most people ignore me. I don't like being ignored. So, but my motive is partly to make spiritual advancement. So it's not pure.
Yeah.
So it's like you call it a desire to become liberated from material suffering.
Yeah.
There's an impure element, but I know that's there. But I still know that in spite of that, the best thing for me to do is to come out here and I will be purified by doing that. So I'll give you an example. People may start off doing devotional service with a motive.
Yeah.
But then when they become advanced, the motive disappears and they just do it because they want to please Krishna. And that's pure. So in order to get to the pure part, you have to go through the motivated.
Pleasing Krishna is the important thing.
Yeah, that's pure devotional service is for Krishna's pleasure, not mine. We have a self.
I don't know if I want to get into something like that where you have to please the God all the time. I mean, if they're a perfect being, why do they need to be pleased
he doesn't need to
by
be
us?
Pleased. He doesn't need to be pleased by us.
Yeah.
But it's for our benefit.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, I'll give you an example. Like, say you got a son, right? And you buy your son some sweets. Now, it's nice if your son, when he gets the sweets, he first of all offers you a sweet. Now, technically speaking, you're thinking, well, I just paid for the sweets, I didn't need to. He's just giving me back what I've just paid for. But you like the fact that he's offering it back because he's acknowledging he's appreciating you. So Krishna, he appreciates when we offer back to him because he's a provider of everything. So what we do as a service, we appreciate. Now, I get something out of it. You see, when you please Krishna, you feel pleased in your own heart. So there is some pleasure I get from pleasing Krishna. So it's not a blindness. But now, if I'm to be advanced, even if that pleasure's not there, I should still serve Krishna. That's the purest platform. It should be. That way, it's purely unmotivated.
Okay.
Yeah?
I've got to get something to eat, man. But thank you so much for talking. I do actually have those books, so but they are on the shelf.
Fancy making a donation?
Perhaps I will look at them. I've got.
It'll go towards your spiritual piety, just to get a little donation. We do. Have a look at that.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I'm no wiser, but apparently faith is scientific. I didn't quite catch how exactly that works out. I didn't really get the scientific method there. But the amazing thing about these people is that they have it all worked out in their mind as to why it works, and this means that, and the other means this, and if you do this, you'll get that. And it's all about pleasing Krishna at the end of the day. That's the blue guy who lives in the invisible realm. Okay, might be true, but I have yet to see any convincing evidence of it, and I have yet to find out exactly why people do this.